Episode 2, 5 ingredients. It's the podcast, and we're back. You know that this is the place where basically you can make a really simple meal. It's Pebs from Peb Talks, which is basically a motivational self-love podcast. And we've got Captain Cook from Spicy Memories, which is a podcast about food and stuff. And basically these meals, they have 5 ingredients or less, and they take an hour or less to make, which is super cool. We podcast about once a month with a new original entree for 2 or more people who basically don't cook well. I find it pretty challenging. And if you're like me, you just want a simple meal, well, then this is the podcast for you.
It's weird too, because Jamie Oliver, that famous chef, did a 5 ingredient thing in one of his books or something like that. But like, it was such bullshit because it was not 5 ingredients. Like, he would say, hey, it's a 5 ingredient meal, and he would make it. And then it turns out that you needed to get like 10 things to really prepare for it. It was like, and so,
yes.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why like I'm really going to try to stick to that when I write these recipes, because writing recipes for this too, the first one I thought was going to be a knockout of the park. I was like, it's pasta aglio olio. It's easy. I've been making this my whole life. And then when you have to sit down and actually write a recipe, it's totally different, because you got to put yourself in the mind of like, I can't just put like, a little dash of, salt. Like, no one's going to know what that means. Like, so like, you have to like actually like think like, so it's definitely been, it's along with just being good old fashioned fun. It's just it's a good exercise for me to hone my recipe writing skills. So, and you get to be my guinea pig for all of it. So I'm thrilled about that.
Well, no, thank you. We're continuing it on. We're going to try, like I said, to do about once a month. And we're sticking to it so far. I've already learned a lot with that first episode. We talked about, if you missed it, how to pick a good head of garlic. Yes. For whatever reason, that was like always something that I've wanted to talk about. So we discussed it from somebody who I wasn't taught, simple kind of basics like health class, obviously, and stuff. And my mom did teach me too, but like, it's just not to the level where I feel that I could be self-sufficient.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, there's no, like, I think when I was in 8th grade or so, there was this like home ec kind of class, and they would do little like baking kind of things right there. But like, there's no, as you said, there's no like health class for like cooking. There's no like basic 101, like, this is how to not blow up your kitchen, and this is how to not burn down the house, and this is why you don't put cold water inside of something with oil that's burning. Like things like that could seriously avoid injury even. Like that, I feel like they should start incorporating things as maybe an optional class where it teaches you like basic skills, like how to not chop your fingers off when you're cutting, right? Or how to pick a nice piece of produce or garlic or whatever. And garlic, especially when you were asking me about that, I think it was important because like garlic is something that everybody pretty much has like all the time. Like garlic is, I don't know. I mean, even before these recipes, you guys probably bought garlic, like, every so often. I don't know. Maybe you didn't. I don't know.
Yeah, no, like I would say like every other grocery store, like we would go through it fairly often. But now I learned the difference between slicing and the chopping and the dicing and everything. We also talked about that, and I need new knives. Definitely. Yeah. That would be a great Christmas gift, even though I'm like not even at summer yet, but
No, a new knife, there's nothing like a new knife, especially when it's like so sharp, and it just easily just cuts through everything. And oh God, it's like me sharpening my knives is therapeutic, but it's also something that's like the bane of my existence, because some people have those easy ones you see on QVC, the like that, Yeah. But I have an actual stone, like I have a whetstone that I soak in water, and I like go like that with the blade, and I grind it down on each side. So like I really sharpen it. But
okay.
Yeah, but that takes a lot of time, and it's annoying, and you have to, I'm rocking back and forth on my feet for like 30 minutes straight. It's like, it's not fun. It's just a part of it. But it's, if you have a sharp knife, if you don't have a sharp knife in your kitchen, that's the first thing that no matter what 5 ingredients we give you, the first instruction to every one of our recipes is make sure your knife is sharp, because if it's not, that's bad news bears, man. That's not
Could
good.
you like link us to a really within a budget good knife that you could get off of, I don't want to say Amazon, because we hate Amazon. that's the new trend,
Yeah, exactly.
So, but like if you could, you know what I mean, like link us up to something like that,
Yeah,
I could really benefit from it, and I'm sure others could too.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good ones out there. One of the best knives that we've been using for years is from IKEA, right? It's not a well constructed German steel knife. It's an IKEA knife, but I keep it insanely sharp, and it's that's all you need really. So I don't want to tell people go to Home Goods and get whatever you see, but yeah, I'll find a few. I'll find a few in a couple different price ranges.
All right, cool. So what we're cooking this episode is a cast iron lemon pepper spatchcock chicken. And yes, I did have as much enjoyment in saying that as I know you're going to say.
It is my favorite word in the entire culinary universe. I don't know why. And it's not even like, it's so weird. It's just like, and it's just universally accepted. I feel like everyone's just like, yeah, it's spatchcock. And I'm like, how does that not make you laugh? Like, I'm just like, maybe I'm like an infant. I don't know, but oh God. But yeah, so spatchcocking, for those of you who don't know, it's a chicken that we were cooking, a whole chicken, or in Pep's case, you had two halves, right, that were halved already.
Yes. Yep.
Which, by the way, the spatchcock is a technique. If you don't want to spatchcock a chicken because you're not a butcher and you don't want to feel yourself breaking the breastplate of a chicken, which, by the way, is super satisfying. But if you don't want to do that, you can do what Peps did. You go to the grocery store. They will either spatchcock a chicken for you, or they'll just give you two halves. Now, a spatchcock is very easy. You basically cut out the spine of a chicken on the back, opposite of the breasts, like the bottom of the chicken, with kitchen shears or a knife if the knife is big and sharp enough. But kitchen shears or scissors, you cut out the spine, flip it over so that your hands are on the breast, and you press down and break the breastplate. Because then what happens is every piece of skin is flat and facing up. So the chicken will cook evenly. You don't have to worry. Like, you ever roasted a chicken or cooked a whole chicken and the bottom of it is like soggy with the skin, right? Like soggy skin is like I'm a gross person, so like I love it. I just like scoop it up and I'm like, But like I'm told that the majority of the population likes crispy skin, so that's fine. But yeah, so that's how you spatchcock. I just posted a reel on my page, Captain Cook's Food, about it. Brief version of how to do it, but we also I'll also link that, like a nice slow, well-made YouTube description on how to properly spatchcock a chicken. Not me, like in my kitchen, just like going like this, giving CPR to a chicken that I bought.
No, I mean, I think the world could use that.
Yeah. I mean, what, me giving CPR to a chicken?
Yeah,
yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
A nice demonstration of exactly. I mean, because like you said, you put up a pretty good video there, but like, you know what I mean? Like, get into the detail of it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Get you all emotional beforehand and everything. So yeah, basically, well, all right, before anything, what did you overall think of this recipe? Like, was it like, is this like we're doing a gladiator thing? Are we doing thumbs up, thumbs down? What are we?
Oh yeah, no, definitely thumbs up.
Okay.
Yeah, thumbs up. This was, for me and my husband both, we usually agree and we're pretty in line together with our taste buds for the most part, a 9 out of 10. Like, yeah.
I love hearing that. Oh my God.
Yeah, because it was simple, and it was like, once I like had the ingredients that I needed, like it was good. Like it was good to go.
That's it. I mean, the idea with this is to take meals and just make them easy. I mean, I feel like the reason a lot of people don't cook is because it's like you build this huge grandiose thing in your mind and there's all these ingredients and prep. It doesn't have to be like that. I got home at 5:45 today, and in the span of 30-ish minutes, or less than an hour, I could say, I cooked a bunch of chicken thighs and like roasted carrots and like all this stuff.
That's insane.
Yeah, but it's easy to do. There's just like techniques. Actually, the technique that I used was basically the same as how we cook this. So it'll tie into that.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
And it was with chicken. So you can apply this to anything.
Yeah, I guess so.
Man. So, all right. All right, so you want to kick it off? You want to roll this? You want to get the string?
Yeah. So things that I definitely want to mention here is I burnt myself while I was tenting, and this is the mark. If no one believes me,
you got a battle scar. Yeah, you got a battle scar. Look at that. Oh, I love that. That's good.
It's BS, man, because I was being so careful, and I'm such a child. But I really was like,
whew. Can I guess exactly from the placement of that burn? Is that was coming out of the oven, either on the door or the roof of the oven, I'm assuming, right?
So the racks that I had a higher stacked rack because everything kept like getting way too, I have a way too low one, and then I have
right, yeah. You got them like all over the place, yeah.
So this was sitting on the the way too low one. And then my top like arm just happened to grace. This happened when I was tenting, which we're going to learn about. I need apparently some tips on tenting. My husband is going to step in with another great review, which we always love hearing from Morgan. That's coming up. How is he going to feel about the dish? I mean, like I said, he already, I mean, kind of spoiled it. But
yeah. Well, we don't know.
After last week, we want to hear a positive review.
He could be plotting. You don't know. He could be eating your food and be like, no, this is great, honey. And then get on the podcast and be like, it's time to speak my truth.
It's an impartial, what is it? He's a third party.
An objective, an impartial third party. There you go.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. And then also I need to know how to pick the best lemon pepper seasoning. We're going to have to go over the difference between fresh and not fresh.
Yeah. Like fresh lemon pepper wet and lemon pepper dry. That's a big thing with people. So
so I'm learning about this because again, my palate is so bland that I didn't even like have that. I thought I had that in my cabinet because it just sounded like, I got that in my cabinet. No, and then I went to the store and I'm like, shit, there's a lot to choose from.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go over that too. So yeah. But checking in, I wanted to see, since it's been a month since we've talked, whatever, any big life updates? Have anything you want to share with anybody?
A little bit. Yeah, I guess since the last episode, I announced that I'm going to have I have a bun in the oven, I guess you could say. My wife and I are expecting a child in
Congratulations.
October, so that's fun. Thank you. And outside of that too, I've been partnering with some more companies in my hot sauce. So I just partnered with another hot sauce company, another coffee company, in Connecticut. So my hot sauce is going to be in Ridgefield, Connecticut more. And also I went to like some small business events and networking stuff. It's cool. I'm starting to
that is awesome.
I'm trying to take advantage of my local network, but I discovered even when I was there that they were just all people that I had been following on Instagram and talking with on Instagram for like years. And then like we saw each other in person, they were like, oh, and I was like, and we just like, so
like on accident.
No, like I didn't know they would be there, but I kind of had like an idea. But then
sweet.
Yeah, I saw all these like bloggers that I've been talking to literally for like 3 years. And it's weird. It was not like awkward at all. We just like talk because we talk on Instagram. It was like how you and I were talking before, before we started a podcast. So it was fun. But I don't know. What about you?
Nice.
What about you do anything these past 4 weeks?
Yeah, I went to Miami. I did that thing for the second time. The first time I went, it was only for like a women in radio conference actually, and this was like pre-pandemic, like 2018, I think it was.
Okay.
And I only went like really quick. We took like an Uber ride to like South Beach and went to like this nightclub because I was like, what the hell, right? Like when in Rome kind of style. But like it was way too quick. So I decided, I'm like, I really am not a nightclub kind of person. So like we went up and we set up between a Denny's and an IHOP, which was kind of critical for me.
That's
like,
what I'm talking about. That's a night for me. I wasn't even a big nightclub person when I was in my early 20s. So yeah, that's my kind of night. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it was post up in front of the essentials, as I call them. That sounds
right. Yep. Yeah. We had like a Walgreens. We had like two, like a CVS, like all like right there. Everything was walking distance. It was cool because like the beach was right there too by us. So yeah, it was pretty interesting. But yeah,
that's amazing. Miami. I've been to Florida a few times. I've not been to Miami yet.
Yes, so check it out.
Would like to go. I know I want to go to Little Havana because that's where you get real Cubanos. Like not even like they don't really even make Cubanos like that in like Cuba. Like I mean like real Cubanos like started in like Little Havana in Miami, and I love Cuban sandwiches so much. Like I don't know if you've ever had a Cuban sandwich or not.
Mm-mm.
Oh, sweet.
Well, everyone's telling me to try that stuff and to go out of my way to like make sure to have it. And I was like, you don't know me. But
not just that, that's a whole other trip. That's like, if you're going with like family or whatever, you got to do your own stuff. Cause like that, you could just spend a whole week doing that shit. That's the problem is that.
No, my stomach, man, would like revolt.
Yeah, maybe. No, you know what? Probably not with a Cuban. A Cuban is like, it's like Cuban bread, which is just plain bread. And then it's like mustard spread on it. Right. And then, some pickles. And then it's 2 kinds of meat with Swiss cheese. It sounds weird, I know, but it's just slices of ham, like a ham sandwich, and then a very slow cooked, like overnight piece of pork that's been sliced off that gets layered with it, and it all gets melted together on a plancha, on a fucking like a flatbread press, basically a panini press. and that's a Cuban sandwich. And it sounds weird, but it's actually just like a very fancy ham sandwich with mustard and pickles. It's actually really good. But that in Little Havana, that's where it like fucking boomed, and I would love to go there. But yeah, I've never been to Miami. I wish I could.
Yeah, check it out, definitely. So, and then I also figured out the 5 ingredient shell.
Yes. Okay. See, this is what it's called to be prepared for a podcast. Something just fell in my office. Guess we got to leave that in. Jesus. So hopefully it was nothing important. That's what it's called, being prepared for a podcast. Look at that. Beautiful. That's just that's just bringing that is comfort. That is bringing so much. It's expanding my little tiny black heart. Just it's like that scene with the Grinch. It's like he's building up to get.
Oh, I love it. That's so funny.
That's exactly what's happening.
I almost got a raw chicken and just threw it up there, like stapled it on the wall.
Why the fuck didn't you do that? That would have been the perfect blend of like psychotic and amazing too. Like, and if you did it on like live, if you got like a part of the chicken and like a nail gun, and you're like, today we're telling you about spatchcock chicken, douche, and just like right at the moment, people be like,
right into the wall.
People watching the video will be like, I guess I gotta watch now.
I mean, tell me that wouldn't be your new favorite podcast, right?
Absolutely, it would. Are you kidding me? I wouldn't watch anything else. Oh my god, that takes some serious crazies to happen. Oh man. So, all right, how about this? Why don't you give me just a very quick, like, your little review of like before we actually dive into this biatch.
Yeah, to see if like this is something that, you know, this episode is for you, because we're going to have a collection of episodes, I'm sure, like in the future. So if you're wondering if this one is for you, I thought like if you want a juicy chicken, this for me really worked out to be that way. Keep in mind, I did 2 halves of a chicken. Like I didn't do it the same exact way, but like basically the exact same way, just in 2 different. I cooked in 2 cast iron pans. So
2 of them. Wow.
At the same time, I was feeling it.
Fucking awesome. Oh, I didn't know you were doing 2 at the same time. That would have been a picture. You should have Morgan like have you holding.
Oh, I know, right? That would have been good.
Oh, God.
But I have a picture of the 2. I'll have to post that on our Instagram. Follow at 5 Ingredients Podcast, and it's the number 5 too to help out with that. But yes, very delicious. I thought that this was good. We're gonna have to learn and see if maybe I could get the skin a little bit crispier.
I have some tips for that. Yeah.
Okay, and then it was just really easy to cook. It has to be under an hour. That's like our rule on the podcast. So I would definitely cook it again. And I think we should get into the recipe.
Absolutely. All right. So basically, the first thing that you guys are going to need, obviously, is a whole ass chicken. Now, I wrote it as a whole ass chicken just because, you know, why the fuck not? So yeah, I don't know. Was that like? I mean, you got 2 halves. I'm assuming. Was it like difficult to
no, I didn't know how many like pounds is like a whole ass chicken, because we could go like 4.
I probably should have specified that.
I'm like, am I going 14-pound chicken? And then, or am I going like? And then you were like, no, like, would you say like 3 or
4? Yeah, like a tiny little. I probably should have put young chicken or small chicken. That's probably better to put that.
It's so funny because then I go to the grocery store and then I only found, I'm not even kidding, it was like 5.16 pounds or something and above.
Well, the good thing about how it's written, I will say this, is that the technique of the recipe allows you to pretty much use any kind of size chicken, because it's really just a technique of like cooking it. So like you may need to use a little extra seasoning if you need to. But you could technically use like a 14-pound chicken if you have a pan big enough. Like my dad has like a 17-inch cast iron. Like he's got a huge, so like he could do a whole like 14-pound chicken in that if he really wanted to, the way that you and I did it. So I guess in a way it leaves that, but also I just wasn't thinking. So that one's on me. Sorry about that.
No. So I just went with the 2 halves because like me and you, we were messaging at the time, and at the I used Stop and Shop. They should be a sponsor, damn it. And I went to the meat case, which, by the way, do not listen, Stop and Shop. If you are hearing this, do not get rid of that mother freaking case. I heard rumors that they're like trying to get away with all that. No. That is like what I get my meat from now. Now that I'm like an adult and I've been like learning about this and stuff, I always get my meat right from the case. And the half chickens I ended up going with, and the half chicken fit fine in a cast iron pan.
Right, which is, and again, this is if somebody wants to only cook like a quarter chicken or a half chicken, you can do it. You just have to use the same technique. That's one nice thing, because there's maybe somebody listening who's like, I'm not gonna buy a whole ass chicken. Like they're just like I'm not gonna buy a chicken. Like even if I can, I'm not gonna buy a chicken. So you don't have to. You can buy a quarter, whatever. The technique that we're using is really about how you cook it. The spatchcock was kind of like an option. It just allows you to cook it even. So that's that. The next thing I have listed is lemon pepper seasoning, dry lemon pepper seasoning. This is a big debate with a lot of people. So I just used McCormick has a lemon and pepper seasoning, which everybody can see that there. McCormick is, good if you can get it on sale. Usually their things can be, $6 depending on the store you're in. But McCormick is a reputable brand. It's probably the most popular of the spices out there, I would say. You have Dash, right?
I don't know. Honestly, I think it was one of the cheaper ones.
No,
but
Dash is.
For me, it's all about the size. And in my cabinet, I don't like big bottles because I'm just OCD like that.
No, yeah,
and
I don't either. Yeah.
So this is smaller. Hey, keep that in mind, companies.
Mm-hmm.
Make smaller batches and like make them reasonably priced. And this just looked like a good consistency too. So I don't know.
I mean, the important thing also is like if you look at the ingredients of some of these, there's a lot of different stuff in there. But I mean, now the difference that if anyone's asking because they've heard of like lemon pepper wings or like a big thing, those are usually done with a wet seasoning. The way to make this like fresh, if anyone's at all interested and they want to do this with their chicken, they can. You want to zest almost an entire lemon, so just the zest, and then crack in a buttload of black fresh pepper. And maybe like a little bit of oil and butter to make it like liquidy that you can rub it, but that's pretty much it. It's literally just lemon zest and pepper. So that would give you a similar taste. This is meant to be shelf stable. It cooks easily. It comes out of the same thing. And this is why it had to be 5 ingredients, and this is one. So this is, if anyone wants to do the traditional way, you certainly can. Look up lemon pepper wet seasonings. That would be what you would search. But I don't know. I mean, honestly, as far as like what brand, like you use Dash, I use McCormick, doesn't matter. It's fine. I don't care. Like I really don't give a shit. Like if you look on the back of the ingredients and you see a bunch of weird stuff that is hard to pronounce, maybe go to another one. but yeah,
that makes sense.
That's a good tip for that. Olive oil, I put like 1.5 tablespoons just because like you need some in the bottom of the pan and a little bit to kind of rub on the chicken if you want. You don't have to. You can. I
didn't even do that actually.
You can do just the dry seasoning. That's fine. I usually like to rub a little bit of oil with the seasoning because that can give you crispier skin. That was one of the tips. So
gotcha.
But not too much.
Good to know.
Right, but not too much oil on the skin or it won't actually crisp up. It'll just, get soggy and kind of burn. But again, totally optional. You don't have to do that. And I put olive oil. So like you can use extra virgin olive oil. You can use regular olive oil if you want. I would prefer that people use extra virgin olive oil. The taste is a little bit better. If you don't have that at all, and even you don't have regular olive oil, I guess whatever you have is fine. Canola oil is fine. I mean, olive oil is technically a low smoke point oil. So it's not going directly into the pan when you put it in the oven per se. Right. So like it's not going to smoke up or anything like that. It's okay. And as long as
gotcha.
I think I put the heat on like medium, right? Or like medium high, something like that. You don't want to crank the heat up high. That's the only thing that'll really burn the olive oil right away. So then after the olive oil, I put just a whole head of garlic, which is right behind you there on the shelf. That's and the reason I have people buy a whole head is because as you guys did, you're going to cut it friggin' horizontally right through the middle. So all those beautiful cloves are just showing. Yeah.
So silly me, as always, I always have to, be dumb. I'm like, do I cut it down the center? And do I like cut it, for those people who are not watching but listening, like, do you cut it in a way where if you were like holding it from the bottom, if you were to cut it and its diameter, you know what I mean? Instead of going and cutting it from its side, if you were to hold it by its top.
Yeah. I mean,
what's the difference?
What do you mean? Like how you like that? Now, see, the problem is the cloves are all facing perpendicular to how you're going to cut. So you
want to cut the cloves in half is the whole point.
Yeah, exactly. So because they're all lined up vertical like that, you want to cut horizontal because that's going to expose every clove in the head. If you cut it in half, all those cloves that would be around the thing are just still in their little skins. That wouldn't really do that much. So, which by the way, that's also a very good thing to spread on sandwiches. If you cut it like you did and you just dash those exposed cloves with oil and salt and garlic, wrap it and bundle it in aluminum foil and throw it in the oven for an hour, you get spreadable sweet garlic that you could use.
That's how you make that.
Yes. That's it. That's all you do. It's oil.
That's
salt.
Interesting.
It's oil, salt, pepper, and you ball it up in aluminum foil and throw it in the oven. That is it. Literally. It's the easiest thing. You see all the reel and the TikTok people doing it. Like, they squeeze it out. They're like, they squeeze it out. And they're like, oh, this is spread it on a cracker. Like, they don't give a shit. So after the garlic, just salt and pepper. And I didn't put an exact amount because everyone's a little bit different, but if I had to give a real amount, I'd say maybe like 2 teaspoons of salt, I'd say, for the chicken skin, and probably about the same amount of pepper. You want the pepper to really pop. And even though you're using lemon pepper seasoning, extra black pepper never hurt anybody. Unless you don't like black pepper, then don't do that. But yeah. So that, and you want me to read through the instructions? You want to just give people you want me to?
Yeah, let's do the recipe up. Let's do it.
Okay. So the first thing before any of this, the minute you start, or even before, if you can, preheat your oven. And the one thing I can recommend for crispier skin is make sure your oven is up to temperature. I have the benefit of having an oven that beeps when it's preheated. I think it's pretty old. It could just be lying to me. Who knows? But if you can preheat your oven for at least 15 minutes before you even start the recipe, that would be great. But if not, it's not vital. Because while you're cooking, as long as you do that first, while you're cooking the chicken on the stove and everything, the oven will come up to temperature, or at least almost there. So first thing, preheat your oven. After that, you want to pat down the chicken dry. If it comes out and it's a little bit juicy, if it's from one of those packages, you can rinse it, but don't like blast the water and splash it. There's been a lot of studies that show that's actually not as effective as just patting it dry. A lot of people wash chicken, or like with wings, my wife puts them in vinegar sometimes just to kill the bacteria. You can do that, but also patting it dry for most people is fine, especially if you get it from a place that you've got chicken for before and it's not like a sketchy, dollar store chicken. But you should be fine. Just make sure there's no chicken juice kind of laying around. The drier your chicken, the easier the dry seasoning sticks to it. That's the explanation for that, I guess. Now as far as the seasoning, you want to take like a generous amount of the seasoning, basically up to you. You want to just cover all the skin. And I think I see that you had asked me about the front and the back with seasoning, right? So the underside of the chicken is scary. It is. There's a lot going on. It looks like you just murdered somebody. It's very ugly. It's not fun. Like, I just put that reel up, I think a few days ago of it, and I put it skin side down, and I was like, oh, that sizzle, that's ASMR. And then I'm just looking at like the guts of a chicken, and I'm like, that's not visually appealing. I was like, that's not good. But it's fine, because that's not what you're going to be slicing into. That's going to be facing down the whole time. So if you want to season the bottom, you absolutely can. I did, just because I'm anal, but you don't necessarily have to. So now for those of you who want to make this and you want to do it in a little more than an hour, pro tip, outside of 5 ingredients, this is a sidebar here, season it like the night before and keep it in the fridge dry. And that shit will just soak into the chicken. And it'll just be into the meat. It's absolutely
nice. Okay, I didn't think about that. So, I never think ahead like that.
Again, that's just from cooking and me being like, I wish this tasted better. And then, that's basically where all this comes from. Number 3 is to put the cast iron on medium heat. So if you don't have a cast iron pan, you can use a regular pan. You just can't put usually all the other pans in the oven for the most part, which is what I didn't really explain too much to people. But cast irons are just one piece of iron. They can go in the oven. They could go up to 1,000 degrees. It's fine. Like so like we both had cast irons. You had 2 of them because you're a fucking boss. Jesus. You're like flipping 2 chickens at once and shit. But yeah, so you put the cast iron on medium heat and then drizzle some olive oil in the bottom of it. Not all of your olive oil, but you can if you want, but I wouldn't put all of it. So drizzle it on the bottom. And then when you see it start to kind of shimmer a little bit, that's when you lay the chicken in. That usually takes about 3 minutes, give or take 3-4 minutes. And then you were even saying to like put it skin side down. Always skin side down, because you want to sear that skin first. And also, you don't want to put that disgusting gut-filled side of the chicken down on the cast iron first.
Right.
Because you're building a seasoning and you're building a base coat on your cast iron and your pan, especially with the oil, and that's going to retain a lot of flavor. And you don't want the fucking gizzards of the chicken or whatever's left hanging about on the bottom. You don't want that, seeping into your seasoning. So skin side down first. Was this a problem for you? Was there anything that was getting it in the pan?
No.
No?
I mean, the only thing that was scary was like it started kind of popping a little bit.
Yeah. So that's because you have like a cold chicken that may still be a little bit wet, maybe, but mainly because it's cold and you have hot oil. It happens. It's fine. And also the skin has a lot of fat, and fat tends to just kind of pop like that
Gotcha. Yeah. So definitely beware of that.
Right.
I would say, because I at first was like, ah.
Yeah. And all right. So I will say that's not written in here, but do not use tongs to do that. If you have a half piece of chicken like you, that's fine. If you're maneuvering a whole chicken with legs and a personality like mine,
a personality. Did you name your chicken too?
I didn't, and Teddy tasted delicious. But no, use your hands if you're maneuvering a whole piece of chicken, because you're going to have more control. It's the same thing as like when you're deep frying. You want to do the same thing. When you're deep frying, you don't want to throw it in with tongs or chuck it in like that. You want to lay it in as close as you can with your hand, because that will splash a lot less. So you actually burn yourself and you get less popping when you go close and you don't just like drop it in. I think a lot of people are scared of oil and burning oil and stuff. So once you actually get it in the pan, depending on how hot your pan can get, cast irons can vary depending on how long it's been sitting, and certain stoves heat up differently. I like 3 to 4 minutes, maybe 5 at most. Depending if you have like a hot spot in your pan or not, which hot spots are just from the flame. I don't know if you use electric or a gas.
No, I have that.
You have electric. Okay, so like
because you mentioned that in the last episode, and I was like, you know what? That's so funny, because I never knew that was a thing. I just thought my pan was weird.
Yeah, no, that's your pan's not weird. That is every single pan. If you want to be safe, if there's people out there that are extra worried about it being extra done, what you can do is at 3 minutes, flip it, cook the bottom, and then after another 3 minutes, if you want, you can flip it over and just make it a little extra crispy before you put it in the oven. If you're worried about it being undercooked, I wrote it out so that people, and hopefully you, would get juicy chicken breast, because that is a pet peeve of mine, because chicken breast notoriously is dry as shit. So
yeah, no, this worked out for me, what we did.
All right, so that's good. So you flip it over, and you can just let the bottom cook for as long as you want. You're just basically increasing the temperature of the chicken slowly. But once you flip it over, you're pretty much good. You can pretty much just shortly after that kill the heat. So once you flip it over off the skin side, after whatever it is, 3 to 5 minutes depending, that's when you're going to do the wonderful task of slicing your garlic in half. I used a serrated knife. You don't have to if your knife is sharp enough. If your knife is not sharp enough, it's just going to slide on the skin pretty much and cause a little bit of a mess. So if anyone has a serrated knife in their kitchen, just use that. It's like a little saw. It just saws right through. I did that because I'm lazy and I didn't want to cut time out. I was like, woo, done. So yeah. And then
mine, it wasn't so easy for me. Like, and it was kind of tougher, honestly, than I thought. I thought it was just going to slide that right through. But again, I have a really shitty knife. So maybe part of that's like the reasoning.
Well,
but
it also could be all these TikTokers and people that make reels have shown us that cutting a head of garlic in half like that apparently is the easiest thing in the world. They just go whoop, whoop, and it's done. But that's not, it's not the reality of it. So.
No. So I got like half of it, and then the other half kind of like fell apart on me. And then my husband did it like flawlessly, and it was both our first time. And that's normal. He always gets everything like right away. And I'm always like, can someone explain it from the top?
That's good. He's your permanent backup in the kitchen. I wish I had one of those.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he had me. He wanted to make sure that this did turn out as good as it possibly could.
Oh, because of the last episode, I was so tempted to just write in, just as a joke, like 6 tablespoons of chili flakes and see what he saw. He'd be like, "No, I'm not fucking eating."
Right. No. If you missed it last episode, he called it heartburn.
Yeah. So. But that was my mistake. I forget that people don't have I did change the recipe before we actually posted it, by the way. I reduced the amount of chili flakes a lot. Because when I cook this, my wife and I are so attuned to spice. I just grab like fucking bunch full, and I'm like, woo!
Oh
And I just go in the pan. Like we eat red
that
chili
was
flakes.
murder.
Everything. We eat red chili flakes on our eggs, on our chicken, on our pork, like everything. We love red chili flakes. So good. I make them. I pulse them myself. I get the dried peppers and I make them myself here. It's
That's
great.
funny.
So anyway, after you slice the garlic, you can kill the heat on the stove. Just turn it off. Leave it on the heat and leave it as is with the skin facing up when it goes in the oven. Always, please. And you're just
Can that be our new catchphrase? Never kill the heat.
Never kill the heat. Yeah.
Just because kill the heat is like, the thing that like.
When you first used that, I forgot that I may have
right.
That, and I forgot that I wrote it in the recipe, and you said kill the heat, and I was like, I'm so proud. That is such a good cooking term. I was so happy. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, that is so nice. I genuinely was filled with happiness. I felt like I listened to an episode of Pep Talks.
That's why it's got to be like our catchphrase or whatever on 5 ingredients. That will be like our little slogan. Yeah, never kill the heat.
Never kill the heat. So yeah, what you're going to do before you put it in the oven, you could do this on before or after, but when you're tenting it, when I say tenting, I just mean loosely cover it with aluminum foil. The reason that you do that is because it's in the oven only for a total of like 40 minutes at 400 or over 400. If you know your oven is notoriously like under, because that does happen with a lot of people where their ovens just don't like get up to heat like that.
Oh yeah.
You can increase the heat, but like the standard heat for what I say people is 400 degrees. That's like, so because it's only in there for 40 minutes, you're going to tent it and just loosely cover it with aluminum foil. That's going to keep more heat inside and actually cook the chicken quicker and a little bit more thoroughly to make sure that nobody gets salmonella, because that would be bad. Just a little bit. So, and be careful not to burn yourself after you tent it and you're laying it out in the oven.
So what's the trick? Because I went and I pulled out these sheet of aluminum foil, and then I was like, not my first tenting experience, rodeo. Like, I've done this before. And then I like propped that bitch up like on 2 sides and started making it into like a little tabletop. And then I was like, oh no, the sides are going to be like out. And then I started kind of like folding it down. And I was like, no, this has got to be more square. And then I started like, okay. And then I got in this nice little shape, and I'm like, I'm going to hover it and place it on top once it's already in the oven, and that's where the burn came in.
Yeah, that does happen. So I guess the easiest way is to make sure there's no top rack as an obstruction. Make sure your oven door is all the way down, because you can burn yourself easily when you're maneuvering in and out with that. And maybe tent it while it's on the stove, and when you do it, you don't have to make it an actual like tent. I would say you can do it a little bit close to the chicken. Just make sure, try to make it that so that the top of the aluminum foil is not touching the skin of the chicken. As long as it's a little bit above it, that's fine. Touching the skin of the chicken won't crisp up the skin. That's the only issue.
So when you rip it out, you don't do anything.
You basically just lay it on there. Make sure you can go like this. If anybody's watching, you can pat around the edges of the pan with the aluminum foil just to make sure that it's loosely kind of on there. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like just like put the piece right on top of the pan and go bop 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 with like a dish towel even just on top, so you're not touching the fucking the pan with your hand. After you've tented it like that, and hopefully not burned your arm, although it is going to be a badass scar. So congratulations. That's it. That's what we call war wounds right there. She got battle scars. You're gonna bake it covered for 30 minutes, and just leave it at 400. Do not open the oven door. Because that seriously shoots down the temperature of an oven when you open the oven door by like a lot, which people like. There's certain things where that's helpful. This is not one of them. So like if you're making beef jerky, right, like at a super low temperature, which you can do right on your racks, you open the oven like once an hour because you want to get moisture out. This is not what you want to do. So do not do that at all. Just keep your oven door closed. Make sure you have a light, or put your phone flashlight if you don't have a light, whatever. But you're going to bake it covered at 400 for 30 minutes. And then after those 30 minutes, you're going to open the oven door finally, and you're going to untent it. Just rip the aluminum foil out.
That was so satisfying.
Right. It's so nice when you take it out and you hear that. Oh, God. I love it. You feel just like, yeah, bitch. You're just like, you're ripping it out. And you're going to do that for another 10 minutes longer if you need, but you shouldn't. If you have an instant read thermometer, which I cannot implore people enough to just spend the $7 and get a little tiny digital stick in the meat instant read thermometer, because this is key for cooking chicken always. So that will allow you until the temp is like 160, 165, and then that's it. I mean, if you want it super, super done, let it go to like 170, 175. The breast will be a little bit dry, but it's not the end of the world. People who are pros pull the chicken out at like 150, 155 if it's a whole chicken. Because then they leave it either covered or they rest it for 10 minutes, much like a steak. And the reason you do that is because not to get too weird and technical, but like it's the same thing as like it's heat. So like molecules and the juices of the chicken are all scattered and moving around when the temperature is really high. So all the juices of the chicken push out towards the edges, right? It's the same thing with cooking a steak. The same thing happens. So when you're letting it rest on a cutting board off the heat for 10 minutes, as it's cooling down, the juices are slowly going back in, which is always why they tell you to let your steak rest for at least 5 to 10 minutes. Because it just allows all the juice to come back in. So I'm telling you, whenever you cook chicken or pork or steak or anything, after it comes off the heat, let it sit for like 5-10 minutes, and it won't be like molten lava hot in your mouth. 1, 2, it will be the juiciest thing you've ever had in your life. So that's a nice way to rest that. And if you don't have a thermometer, which I think you told me you don't have a thermometer, right?
No, I don't now. But I was like, I think the Dollar Tree might have them.
Yeah, which it's totally fine. And the Dollar Tree thermometers, you don't have to worry about everything else from the Dollar Tree. Maybe be a little sketchy to buy, but the instant read thermometers, that's fine.
That's fine. Okay, cool.
As long as like foreign weird hieroglyphic symbols don't show up, you're fine. So just make sure it's in Fahrenheit. So yeah, and then I put in there that I would remove it and let it rest for 10 minutes. Sorry, I'm gonna go back to that. If you don't have a thermometer, cook it a little bit longer than the recipe says. That's just an easy way to have a buffer.
I think that's what we did.
Right. You don't need to necessarily, because searing it for 5-ish minutes on top of a hot cast iron and then baking it in the cast iron will do the job, and it will be safe to eat. But if you're extra paranoid, you don't want to cook undercooked chicken, that's fine. Just let it go 5 extra minutes. It's not a problem. And cast iron is kind of crucial for this recipe that I was explaining to you, I think, when we were chatting about it, only because the cast iron is a pan and it's an iron, so it retains all the heat like that. It's not always the same as when you put it just on like a sheet pan and put it in there. A sheet pan's not meant to be on top of like a stove. So that's more just like kind of like a surface, and it takes a longer time to kind of build up heat. Cast iron is a deeper of heat, and it's also helping you cook while it's in the oven as well. It's not just using the radiated heat that's around in the oven. It's also expelling heat from the actual pan itself. So baking things in cast iron is like the best always. Like I try to do that whenever I can. But yeah, then after that, you remove it, you let it rest for 5-10 minutes. That's it, and then you can just shove your face right in there and start digging in.
Dig in, nice, cool. Would you add like extra lemon juice or like fresh squeezed lemon, or is that just like overkill at this point?
No, I mean, if you want to get real fancy, you can definitely squeeze and serve it with a few wedges of lemon. Or if you want to just shave some lemon zest on top, you can. Not everyone likes the taste of lemon zest. I love lemon zest. So if you want to shave some lemon zest on top, you certainly can. But as you saw from the recipe, you definitely get a lemon flavor that comes through, which is nice.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It wasn't too much. It was like a good balance.
Right, exactly. And if I was doing this on a sheet pan, I would probably say throw some lemon slices on the bottom of the chicken, right, to be extra fancy. But
okay.
The only reason I didn't tell you to do that is because lemon is really bad for cast iron.
Why? That like acid or whatever?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. The acidity. It rips off the seasoning that you've been spending so long building on the cast iron. Lemons and tomatoes are no bueno for cast iron. You can do them, but like don't do them a lot, and certainly don't leave it in the pan. Just because that's like detrimental. But I could do a whole show on cast irons. So but yeah, so I mean that's basically it. That's the recipe. It sounds like a lot, but it really wasn't that bad, right?
Okay.
That was the goal. I would say, like, as far as like any final tips, tricks, stuff like that you can do if you want a crispier skin, don't use too much oil. And while it's uncovered for the last like 2 minutes, put your broiler on if you have a broiler in the oven. So if you have a broil setting in the oven, that's on the top. It's like a salamander in a professional kitchen. It'll just blast the top of it with heat, and that'll crisp it up a little bit, you know?
Oh, okay. See, I've never used that because, again, no one's taught me about the broil button.
Right. Think of a broiler as a really weak, big torch, Like, you ever seen with creme brulee, they take the torch and they make the top of the sugar like caramel, right?
Okay.
It's basically a giant.
No way. That's cool.
It's a giant weak version of that. So if you're ever cooking anything, including veggies, including chicken, pork, whatever, broil it on close to the top rack. Keep an eye on it because it burns pretty quick. But that is like broiling afterwards is like key. I cook whole chickens in my Instant Pot. Okay, literally, I could cook whole chickens in my Instant Pot. I take them out and I put them under the.
Wow.
And it gets nice and crispy. That's literally what we do. Because Instant Pots, you could do what we did. The time for Instant Pot is 6 minutes per pound of chicken. So if you have a 4-pound chicken, that's 24 minutes on the Instant Pot. And then like 15 minutes of the natural release or whatever. But then, so broiling is definitely a good thing. If you don't have a broiler or you don't want to use it and you don't have a torch and your skin's not crispy enough, make sure it's not covered and crank the fucking oven up to almost as high as it goes and just let it go for a couple minutes. And it's not good to keep that on for that long because it could burn, but you just keep an eye on it because you'll see it starts to crisp it up if you don't have a broiler. But the broiler is a lot better because it's just concentrated directly on the top. It's not every single part of the oven radiating heat, basically. And my last tip, I guess, would say is just buy a thermometer to people. Like, spend the $6 or $7 and buy a thermometer. Because not just with this, if you're cooking steak, if you're cooking pork chops, if you're able to monitor the temperature and you look up what the beautiful prime optimal temperature is for all these meats, you're in like a whole other realm of like, holy shit, I didn't know I could cook like this. It's like, it's that next level having a thermometer. Which is, I'm telling you, like I suggest that to anybody that I can. And you can even get them in the grocery store. Usually that aisle where on the top rack of Stop and Shop, they have like the spoons and the ladles and all that shit. It's usually loaded up there. You can just ask them too at customer service. They'll get it for you at any store. But yeah, it's buying a thermometer will change your entire meat game, not just for chicken. So
meat game. I like
meat game.
That's perfect. All right. So let's do Morgan's review. Finally.
I'm so excited.
Let's find out. We've got 2 minutes of audio. At one point, he's like blowing on the chicken and he blows into the microphone. And I'm so sorry because that's very, very surprising to me. When I listened to it back, I was like, oh yeah, that happened. And
I'm really looking forward to hearing that now.
I'll try and pull it away from the mic if I can.
That's okay. That's okay.
All right, you've been warned. Here we go. I'll crank up the audio.
It looks nice. Golden, light brown with about 5 seasonings on it. Smells really good. It's crispy and moist at the same time. Let's cut into this bird. It's thoroughly juicy, steaming hot. Got to blow on it.
I'm so sorry.
Sound effects.
You hear me sigh. I'm so angry.
Succulent. Tastes nice and fresh flavored, not overpowering. Good flavors, good flavors.
Would you do this
Tastes
again?
kind of Italian-y. I would do this again.
1 to 10.
Say a 9 just because the skin could be crispier.
All right. That's it? Anything else? What are you going to call this dish? What do we call it? I haven't eaten it yet, so I don't know.
Call it half a chicken over easy. Because it's nice, well balanced, good in your mouth, and it's a chicken cut in half. There you go.
And that's the review.
Half a chicken over easy. I fucking love that. Oh my God. Especially with cooking in the pan and flipping it like that. That's so good. Oh man. I think we might have to incorporate that.
I think it's, yeah.
I am so looking forward to the rest of Morgan's reviews of these.
Right? Like, I love having the impartial third party. I think it's perfect. And the way that it's very articulate. It's great.
It is. Yeah. Especially with the moist. He really landed on the T. I like that. And he said succulent. I'm like, ooh. I was like, all right, there we go. But no, and also I like that he's very honest. Like the last recipe, he was just like, "This is hot as shit. I can't even."
Yeah.
He was just like, he won't like sugarcoat it. He won't be like,
No.
"Oh, it's good. You did a good job." Like, no, he was like, "I can't eat this. It's too fucking hot."
Yeah, I can't eat this.
So I love that we have an honest, impartial third party. Oh,
Yes.
God.
5
right,
ingredients. It
so
lives on.
all together with Morgan's review and yours, what would be your like final thoughts on the recipe itself, but also like what maybe you would do again next time yourself, like differently? Maybe not for like every person, but like you personally.
So I learned that my husband's like a big fan of the chicken breast, and like I don't really give a shit about which part of the chicken. So I'll just eat the other, you know what I mean? And then next time we'll just make a half a chicken and then just make it easier so that way I don't have 2 pans. But I didn't know that until this experiment. So that was like perfect.
Exactly.
And then I mean, no, like you said, like preheat the oven, make sure you do that like early enough. It was,
you know, that, I mean, that's a tip for every recipe that requires an oven, not just this. And I mean, any recipe that you people listen to or watch or read or whatever, always preheat your oven even before you start the first step, because the first step in every recipe that includes an oven usually is preheat your oven. I mean, that's like always the first thing they say, and there's a reason for that. So, you know, there are specific times when you don't have to do that, like if you're cooking bacon on a sheet pan. But aside from that, you know, best way to cook bacon, by the way, hands down, on a sheet pan with aluminum foil. You lay it in there in a cold oven. You turn it up to 400. You wait like 15 minutes, crispiest. Even
you got to sprinkle on the brown sugar.
Oh, don't see. You know about that. All right. You act like you don't know how to cook. You know about the brown sugar on the bacon. Come on.
Just the bacon. We don't play around in this house.
No, candied bacon is it's so good. Oh man, I made a spicy, thick candied bacon, like thick cut bacon that was like from a slab. You know, that I had.
Oh, what?
Yeah, it was like somebody had smoked and made a huge slab of bacon, not sliced it yet. So I was able to cut these huge, thick chunks off of the piece of pork belly that had been turned into bacon. And I put a lot of brown sugar. I put a little bit of honey, and I put a lot of like cayenne pepper and some seasonings. And I made like a mildly spicy, candied, thick cut bacon. And that is like next level. So yeah, that's woof. That's amazing.
5 ingredients bacon.
5 ingredients bacon. I have actually never cooked a whole lemon pepper chicken. I've used lemon pepper seasoning a lot with chicken, right? And I've done it with wings, and I've done wet and dry seasonings. I've never done this though. I've never done like a spatchcock whole lemon pepper chicken, which is why I wrote the recipe. But also I just was curious, and my wife, we loved it. I mean, we love chicken. We eat chicken at least once a week, if not once or twice a week. Different forms usually. We'll do like chicken breast one night, and then like tonight I made chicken thighs, and like whatever. I see that as different kinds of meals, even though it's all chicken. But yeah, we absolutely would do this again. And yeah, if your main thing was mainly just crispy skin, again, that's an easy fix. That's the broil. That's just, you know, or not making sure the aluminum foil isn't as close to it if that was a problem. But yeah, that's it. That's basically it. So I don't know. Tried to make a relatively simple recipe for everybody. So that's there you go. That's
Bravo.
That is recipe number 2 from 5 ingredients. We have done 2 of these now. That's insane.
We're on a roll. So what do we know what we're gonna do for next month? Because I did shoot some ideas. I don't know. Are we gonna leak them?
We can toy with them. We can talk about them a little bit. Why don't you shoot? Where did I'm trying to think, because I wrote down what you had suggested to me. I need to find it. Unless you have it off the top of your head, then please say so. So
random that my husband and I, we always just like go off the beaten path. And so we bought a griddle instead of a freaking grill. But I texted you and I thought to myself, I was looking out at my outdoor patio and how I want to like spruce it all up for how nice and gorgeous it's been here in Connecticut recently. So I was like, my propane tank needs to be filled. We should do something that has to do with a griddle or a grill for the normal people. So.
I think that's a good idea. And I think if not the next one, definitely the one after for June or for
July. Yeah.
Because that's like a big July 4th. That's like a big like barbecue month for everybody. Once the summer starts, pretty much the barbecue month. So we can do it for the next episode if you want. I have a lot of ideas for grilling. I mean, there's a lot of things you can grill. I mean, we can do, you know, easy 5 ingredient burger. We could do whatever. I mean, that's like, you know,
kebabs.
Or kebabs. That's a huge thing. We could do a lot of cool kebabs. We could do like, skewered chicken kebab, stuff like that. I'm trying to think. There's so many options. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. So I think maybe for the next one, I'll ramp up for a barbecue episode. That'll be good. And my parents, actually, I'm probably going to use their barbecue because, one, I live in an apartment. Two, they have a really nice grill. My dad built this huge, like 8-foot long stucco, like shell for the grill where it's like able to store the firewood that he needs. And it also has like a part that you can put on top. It's got racks. It's like next level. He uses coals and everything. Yeah, it's crazy. So I'm probably going to use that. Which is not necessary at all. And I will not incorporate any. I'm not going to say to people like, go buy a smoker, do that. Like, no, it's just not, it's not going to be that. It's as if you just have one of those tiny little $10 portable.
Perfect.
Grills. I'm going to make it so that you could just get a bag of coals and that and you're done.
You can get them at like Five Below.
Yes.
Did you know that?
Yes, you can get little tiny
like little pop up, like
yeah, like little tabletop ones. It's so.
I should do the recipe on that just to prove.
Yeah,
this is 5 ingredients.
That would be serious commitment. That would be great. You have a grill, but you're doing it on a tiny little pop up just to prove a point. But yeah, and for those of you who have not been seeing our content or on Instagram, we did launch an Instagram since last episode. So 5 Ingredients Podcast with the number 5 in the beginning is our Instagram. We are on pretty much every platform that people listen to podcasts to as of now. We are on Anchor, we're on Spotify, we're on Google, we are on Amazon and Amazon Music and Kindle, Audible. Sorry,
nice.
Not Kindle, that'd be weird. Audible. We're on Stitcher, we're on Good Pods, we're on every channel. So for the most part, I know from the analytics, most of you listen on Google and Apple podcast and Spotify. So the main ones we are absolutely on. This will be a video episode for those of you watching. Hi. And this will be a video only on Spotify and YouTube. Everything else, you'll just hear the audio because they haven't caught up yet. So sucks for them. But this will be a video on Spotify and YouTube. For anybody that has questions to us, you could email us at 5ingredientspodcast, spelled like the Instagram, at gmail.com. And yeah, I don't know. You have any closing statements you want to suggest to people? Anything like that? Any final tips? Any words to the wise?
No, check out Spicy Memories podcast. Of course, that's like where you can hear Captain Cook over there, and then Pep Talks podcast if you're looking for just some uplifting stuff, some sort of relatability, and just every Friday at 5:00. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And for those of you who I have not said this to yet, I absolutely 100% implore you to listen to Pep Talks. I don't know how else to describe that to people because like it's I don't know how to describe this. I was never into like the motivational books and like the motivational whatever, and when I first started listening to your show, I was realizing that like these 30-minute episodes all of a sudden were like getting me like, I was like, yeah, I was listening to it like, all right. Yeah. I was like, okay. So
it's the best.
Every Friday, absolutely listen to Pep Talks. There's a link in our bio of 5 Ingredients. Where we're also going to have links by the time this airs to my podcast, to Peb's podcast, to any other the recipe on the Anchor page, anything that you guys would need. The link to thermometers and knives, whatever the hell we want to throw in there.
We can throw that in there. I'm so excited for this.
Yeah, this is going to be great. So if you're listening to this and you're like, well, yeah, you said that halfway through. Well, I probably should have said that in the beginning. Go to the link in our bio. You'll find all the links that you need. We've had people just doom scrolling like that. So yeah, but I'm just happy that I wrote a recipe that you guys liked at the end of the day. That's
I'm so stoked. So. I knew you're definitely 100% capable. The last episode too, great recipe. We just had to throw out a little.
Yeah, but that was also
the majority of the chili.
No, but see, this is why it's like a learning experience because I'm learning now. I'm like, okay, Dick, not everyone has scorched their nerve endings on their tongue like you. Like I am so desensitized to heat that it doesn't even faze me anymore. Right? Like when I'm cooking my hot sauce, I eat habanero peppers like raw.
Oh god,
I'll chew on a bit of habanero pepper, and
no.
she and I are like a whole other level, and I forget that. So that was my bad. But aside from that, the recipe was fine. And
it's just gonna keep getting good.
Right. This was my goal for this recipe was to make something that you could bang out in under an hour or around an hour, and not really have too many big complications. And that was basically it. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see you in episode 3, and we'll hit you up again on Instagram. I even gave a teaser for what we were going to make this week, so you'll actually get a little bit ahead of the podcast by following at 5 Ingredients Podcast on Instagram. And remember, it's the number 5 because Well, we only use 5 ingredients.
Exactly. And if you have any suggestions for recipes you'd like us to explore or write, feel free to DM us on Instagram, send us an email, whatever. We are happy to indulge anybody. Doesn't mean we're going to listen to you, but we are happy to indulge anybody.
We appreciate all comments.
Yes, we appreciate. There you go. We appreciate all comments. That's a much nicer way of saying that. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for listening to 5 Ingredients. I am Captain Cook. This is Pebs, and that was episode number 2.
See ya.